All right, so today we're diving into something really special. We're going to try and decode a fascinating set of handwritten notes. Notes that try to answer the biggest questions you can imagine. We're talking about a unified theory of everything, an idea that connects the tiniest quantum particles, the huge expanse of the cosmos, and even our own consciousness. And it all kicks off with one single, really powerful idea.
So, at the very heart of all this is this incredible metaphor, the universe as a giant spider's web. It's a way of thinking that totally reframes reality. It's not a bunch of separate things floating around. Instead, it's a single, conscious being that creates everything from within itself, and eventually pulls it all back in. So where does a cosmic web like that even begin?
Well, in this way of thinking, it doesn't start with a big bang. It starts with a thought. The universe doesn't just explode into being, it wakes up. The very fabric of reality itself, what the author calls space, is the source of everything. And get this, it's fundamentally conscious.
And this is where things get, well, really different from the physics you might have learned in school. Here, space isn't just an empty void between stars. It is the source. It's conscious, it's aware, and the author actually equates it with the divine concept of Shiva. This is the bedrock of all existence.
Okay, so if everything starts out as this conscious space, you gotta ask, right? How does it turn into, well, everything? How do we get from pure consciousness to planets and stars and us? The author actually lays out a very specific blueprint for creation, a step-by-step process for how consciousness becomes physical reality.
So, this is it. This is the core sequence, right from the author's notes. A 6-step journey from pure conscious space to the solid matter that makes up our entire world. Let's break it down, step by step. So it all kicks off with one single act, consciousness, or space. It just wakes up. And that awakening creates a vibration, which is the most basic form of energy. This energy then heats up, and in the places where the vibration is most intense, the very first bits of matter, quarks, are born. Now we've got these basic particles, but they're not really doing much yet. And this next part, it is crucial. According to these notes, space itself gets pulled or plucked, kind of like a guitar string, and that single action is what gives these new particles their charge. And once those particles get a charge, boom, physics as we know it jumps into the driver's seat. Electrostatic forces start pulling these charged particles together, forming the first atoms. Then those atoms bind together, creating the tangible objects and matter that we can see and touch. The cosmic web is officially woven.
All right, so we've got matter. The universe is populated. But how does it all play together? What are the rules of the game? The notes actually spend a lot of time thinking about the forces and the fields that control how all this new stuff interacts.
So check this out. This table breaks down the whole hierarchy of how things interact, and it's super elegant. At the smallest, tiniest scale, quarks are held together by the nuclear field. As you move up a level, charged particles play by the rules of the electromagnetic field. Then you've got atoms being bound by molecular forces. And finally, big objects like us and planets are governed by the gravitational field. It's this beautiful layered system.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. The author makes it a point to ground these fields in real, established physics. They actually reference Newton's and Coulomb's laws, and they call them the mathematical field force that dictates how objects and charges naturally interact with each other.
But this is where things get really, really interesting. The author makes this fascinating split between two different kinds of force. You've got natural force, which is just the universe on autopilot, an apple falling because of gravity. But then there's applied force, and that requires intent. That's when a conscious, sentient being steps in and chooses to act on the world.
And that very idea, the difference between the universe on autopilot and a conscious choice, that brings us to the next massive piece of the puzzle, the emergence of life, which the author calls Jiva, and the totally unique role it plays in this whole cosmic system.
So the author says that at first, life, or Jiva, is basically just running on instinct. It's driven by ego, just this relentless focus on surviving and making more of itself. For eons and eons, that's its only job, to exist and keep the cycle going.
But then, after who knows how long, something totally profound happens. According to this diagram from the notes, we reach a turning point. When a living being, especially a human, gets dispassionate with that endless cycle of just surviving, it starts to ask a much deeper question. Why? And that is the birth of the spiritual path, the quest for real meaning. And that right there, that is the absolute key. In this massive cosmic theory, the unique purpose of being human is to make that pivot, to go beyond our basic biological programming and set off on a conscious journey to figure out our real place in the universe.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. We've gone from conscious space to the creation of matter, to the rules that govern it all, and finally to the rise of life and its purpose. This final part of the notes weaves everything together into one single unified reality.
Now, don't squint and try to read every single word here. That's not the point. Just take in the big picture. This mind map is the author's shot at drawing the entire system from physics to consciousness on one page just to show how it's all fundamentally linked together.
And as you look at this map, you'll start to see all the concepts we've been talking about, right? We started with space, which leads to vibration and attraction. But the map also weaves in things like the law of karma, consciousness, and sentience, showing that these aren't separate ideas at all, but gears in the same cosmic machine.
In this final thought from the author, man, it just wraps everything up so perfectly. The whole universe is just vibration, and the only thing that makes a rock different from a star, or a star different from you, is its own unique rate of vibration, all happening inside that one single consciousness of space.
So that leaves us with this one massive question to chew on. If this whole unified vision is true, if the cosmos is a physical machine that runs on laws, and at the same time a conscious mind that's aware of itself, what does that mean for us? We're the tiny little parts of it that have somehow become self-aware. What part are we really meant to play?